Here's some quiz review problems to go over, maybe if you need a little extra help. So let's do 1A. We want to decide whether this is growth or decay. So it is 1/4 that is less than 1. So that tells us that that b value, since that's less than 1 here, that it is a decay. Okay, so we do this first of all. Then we look at how is it translated. And so this is with the x, so that tells us it goes right 3. And the -2 here tells us it goes down 2. So first you want to take a look at the parent function. So the parent function is just the b to the x. So what that is just the base and then to the x power. So same thing here and same thing here. So in this case here, we're graphing 1/4 to the x. So you're only going to think about 3 numbers when you plug in -1, 0, and 1 as your x values. So when we plug in 0 for x, that is always, so 1/4 to the 0 is always 1. So it's always here. So we're graphing the parent. Then if we plug in 1, 1/4 to the first power, that's just a 4th. So when you plug in 1, you get a 4th. Then if you plug in -1, what happens is you get the reciprocal, so the answer is 4. So I plug in x is -1, I get 1, 2, 3, 4, and there is the graph. The next thing is you draw the asymptote. So this is the asymptote for that parent function, 1/4 to the x. Then you look at how it's translated. So we said write 3 down 2. So let's move the asymptote first of all. Write 3, so it doesn't move anywhere, but down 2 it does. So our asymptote moves down 2 spaces. Then you take every single point and move it, right 3 and then down 2. So let's move it, right 3 down 2. So we'll take this point, right 1, 2, 3 down 1, 2, and so that is the point that I'll place here. Then you take the next point and move it right 3. 1, 2, 3 down 1, 2, and it's going to be right there, right above that asymptote here. And we'll take the last point. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then so there is that last point. So you just translate every single point, including the asymptote, and then that gives you your g of x. Okay, so we'll call it g of x. This is our translated function, and this is our parent function f of x. And then you do the same thing here, right? So again, when you're looking at this, you're graphing a 2 to the x, so plug in -1, 0, and 1. And then for this one, you're graphing a 5 to the x as your parent, and then translate it as well. So let's try find the rate of growth or decay. So on this one, we need to decide whether it's growth or decay. So if it's growth, that's going to be y equals a times 1 plus r raised to the t. For decay, that's going to be y equals a times 1 minus r raised to the t. Now you know what's growth when that b value is greater than 1. So looking at all of these choices, which one is greater than 1 inside for our b value? Okay, so we see that our growth ones are going to be these two. Okay, so we know we're going to use this equation. Now for the other ones, those are less than 1, so those are decay. So in order to find out what our rate of growth or decay is, we want to find the r value. And so we need to separate it out because we need to evaluate what we have. So the very first step is y equals, let's separate it out, 0.7 raised to the 1/9, and then the t is on the outside. We're using the power of a power property. So then, at this point, you plug it into your calculator. Again, you plug in 0.7. The exponent button is either the caret or the y to the x button, depending on what calculator you use. Then you do parentheses, and then in this case, it's 1 divided by 9, close parentheses, and equals. Okay, just as a reminder how to use the calculator. So when you do that, what you will get is 0.9611. Okay, and so now we actually did this before. So 0.9611, that's going to equal the 1 minus r. So now we set that equal to 1 minus r because we're trying to find what r is. So now we subtract 1. So don't subtract 1 too early. And when you subtract, you will find you get 0.03889. okay? So that's negative equals negative r. And then notice that you have to round up, and then or 3.89, sorry. And then that's 4 decimal places here. Then in order to get the percent, you multiply by 100. So you find that the rate, and divide by negative as well, the rate is going to be 3.89%. Okay, so 2b is the same. Just make sure you be careful that that's 1 over 15 here. And then the growth, so let me do one growth one. So this is y equals a, and then 1.6. And that's raised to the 1 over 26, and then t on the outside. When you plug it into your calculator, you are going to get 1.0182, so 4 decimal places here, and then raised to the t. Because it's growth, you're going to set this equal 1.0182 equal to 1 plus r raised to the t. And so you'll know it'll always be 1. We're always subtracting 1. So that part isn't different, right? It's always the same. We always subtract 1, but it's positive, and we will have a positive value. 0.0182 equals r, and then you multiply by 100, or move the decimal places right 2 places, and you find that your rate is 1.82%. Okay, so hopefully that helps you out with both of these examples.